Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Flowfish video. Today we're going to be reviewing Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan Ghost War, exclusively on Amazon Prime. It was released on May 20th, 2026, so it's only been out for about a week and a half or so. And for those who have been following the Jack Ryan series, there's currently 4 seasons on Amazon Prime, and the fourth season came out in June of 2023. So we haven't seen Jack Ryan on the screen for about 3 years now. And for those that are fans of the show, as well as myself, we are certainly excited to see John Krasinski come back as Jack Ryan, and take on the role. Just kind of a brief synopsis of what it's supposed to be about. In the new film, Jack Ryan is reluctantly thrust back into the world of espionage when an international covert mission unravels a deadly conspiracy, forcing him to confront a rogue Black Ops unit, and the clock is ticking. So I saw the movie a couple days after it came out, and I rewatched it again yesterday to kind of collect my thoughts. And I enjoyed the movie. I like the character of Jack Ryan. Um, I think the writing was great. I think John Krasinski does a great performance as Jack Ryan. I really think he fits that role well. Granted, I have not seen the other iterations of Jack Ryan, so I know there's many other actors that have played it. Um, and but I really like John Krasinski. I'm a huge fan of The Office, so I always loved him as Jim, but I think him playing Jack Ryan, he really fits that role well. There's a nice balance between some of the comedic effect throughout the show with him and the other characters like Mike November and Jim Greer. But also there's a very serious element when he plays Jack Ryan and laser focused on the mission, and also just kind of this intellectual mind firing and trying to solve problems and save the world from these deadly situations. For those that are forgetting what happened in season 4, maybe haven't seen season 4 yet, I certainly encourage you to go watch the show. It's a fantastic show. Season 1 all the way to season 4 keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's always a new mission, always a new world threat going on, and really keeps you captivated through those 4 seasons. To be brief, the fourth season, essentially, Jack Ryan and one of his associates are now head of the CIA through the first 3 seasons, uncovering threats and helping save the world. They've now kind of been given the reins of taking over the CIA. Jack Ryan and Elizabeth Wright, who's played by Betty Gabriel, who kind of take over leadership in the CIA. Wright has been given the director position of the CIA, and Jack Ryan is her deputy director, the second in command. And they're trying to change the CIA. There's been some from previous leadership. The CIA has been deemed potentially corrupt and not necessarily operating in line with the American people and what's good for them and what's best for them. And it seems to be some corruption and inside operatives that are doing things that are not good for the country as a whole. So the two of them are kind of set on this mission to help correct the CIA and give it new leadership, bring it to a new light, and weed out all this corruption. And they get into it, and it seems like there's already a mess that they have to clean up, that there's things that are going on and taking place in the world around the world that are not only affecting the United States, but also creating more threats. At one point, Jack has to step away from his leadership role to really make a change, because all these politics are involved, and it's going to look bad on Wright if he's interweaved in all of this as a deputy director. So he chooses to step away to really make an impact, to make a change, and destroy this corruption. Without spoiling all the plot, we go through the whole mission. We start uncovering what's really going on and who's involved and how this is all taking place and the role that the previous director played in all of this. And then the season ends with, the light being shined on who was really responsible. The movie picks up, I don't know, maybe a couple months, maybe a year after this all took place. Jack Ryan actually stepped away from the CIA. He actually went back to Wall Street as an analyst, financial analyst, which is actually where he started before coming into the CIA in season 1. It seemed like he had enough of the government. It seemed like he was dissuaded, especially with all the corruption going on. There's even a line in the movie where he sort of states, the dream I was fighting for may not even exist. For, the American dream, or a government that works and isn't corrupt, and it may not even exist. So why am I going to keep fighting for it? Why am I going to keep sacrificing myself for something that may not even be out there or even be possible? It's a tough situation, right? We see there's plenty of examples in other countries you can think of off the top of your head where, especially officials in law enforcement or in the government, where they try to make active change in their environment because there's so much going wrong. There's so many things taking place, and they're not able to do so because the system is so broken that anything they try to do, it doesn't create results. It doesn't benefit. It's fruitless. It's wasted time and effort. And one person can only deal with so much of that before I think they decide that they need to step away. They need to take a break, where, they almost surrender, right? And I think that's where Jack Ryan's head is at the start of this film, or after the end of season 4, is he's very dissuaded. He doesn't believe in the CIA or the American government. When he stepped away, Jim Greer took over the deputy role. So it was Elizabeth Wright and Jim Greer, director and deputy director. And Jim solicits a new assignment to Ryan that he needs him to go and meet a contact of his. And Ryan is hesitant because he understands it's never just meeting somebody. There's always more things involved, and he's not getting the whole picture. He's not getting a lot of information. Of course, he's already headed to this destination for his actual job on Wall Street, and he kind of begrudgingly accepts the mission. So we go through all that. We learn about Jim Greer's past through it a little bit too. So some more light is shined up on some new things. The contact brings some new information, but also creates a conflict between Jack and Greer. Through this all, it also seemed like British intelligence was involved with this as well. So it was a collaboration between the CIA and MI6, which is England's secret spy military service association. A new thread is uncovered for both of them, which is Liam Crown, played by Max Beasley. And apparently Liam Crown and Jim Greer go back, and it kind of ties into Jim Greer's backstory, which is when he was transferred from Karachi back to Langley in the CIA office and became the director of TFAD. And so when he got transferred back to Langley, CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, and became the director of TFAD, was a result of what happened between him and Crown over in the Middle East. Now he tells Jack Ryan later on that he killed a man that was putting him in danger, and top brass didn't like that, so then they transferred him out. But we actually uncover more to that story in the film, and there's a lot more going on, and it ties in with the villain of this movie, Liam Crown. And essentially their mission was focusing on, I guess, really black ops operations and going behind the lines and going deep into this chasm of terroristic groups and militias and espionage, and just you could argue, for someone like Jack Ryan, who has a clear line in the sand between right and wrong, this was far beyond the line. They were doing some really crazy, messed up stuff, and a lot of that was as a response to 9/11. That's kind of why this whole thing was created and what was happening. Greer and Crown were doing some good work in helping save lives and stuff like that, but their methods and results were also pretty devious, arguably evil, if you wanted to say. And when this action took place, it didn't look well for Greer and the rest of the team, so Greer kind of took the bullet, and that's why he got transferred back to Langley. But this was all newly uncovered because we didn't know about it as viewers, and neither did Jack Ryan. So when Jack hears about this, he's pretty upset and pissed off about the whole thing, because not only did he not get the truth, but he also didn't agree with their methods and their methodology and how they were doing things. So kind of creates a schism between these two characters that have been working so close together and really came from a lot from season 1 all the way to season 4 and being almost intertwined and inseparable. So then they're working with MI6 trying to uncover the contact that Greer was working with prior to, which is why Ryan went to who Ryan was meeting out in the Middle East. And the story goes on, and obviously I'm not going to spoil the ending of the rest of it, but that's kind of the catalyst of the story and what's going on. I'm going to start with the characters. I love the characters in Jack Ryan. I love John Krasinski's performance. I think he does a great Jack Ryan. He brings a lot of life to the character. I think the way he plays it, and also just kind of his demeanor, is fantastic. I also give a lot of props to Wendell Pierce, who plays Jim Greer, and Michael Kelly, who plays Mr. November. I think those three guys are just a dynamic trio. Kelly brings the comedic matter and just kind of some kind of off left field sort of value and a different perspective. And then obviously Jim and Jack are very close in their focus towards the mission and accomplishing things, but also working together and also having that dynamic relationship and having fun with each other. And at times maybe not being so serious, which makes it really enjoyable watch and also adds some comedic value to stories that are usually very serious and very hyper focused. I think my biggest complaint is the plot of the movie. The plot of the movie seems very linear. It's point A to point B, and that's just kind of how it goes. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of twists and turns in the movie. It didn't seem like it. Maybe at times it felt so predictable, but again, it was the best way I can describe it is it was point A to point B. We started at point A, we kind of uncovered what we were focusing on, what we're trying to do, and we're just getting to point B. That bothers me, I guess, because in the show they do a really good job at adding twists and turns, and even slowly uncovering pieces of the puzzle before we get to the final destination or the end of the season. And this one, there wasn't a lot of that. It was almost predictable. I got to the end of the movie and I was like, that's it. That's what I was watching. That's what we were building for. Cause they didn't leave it on a cliffhanger. They didn't do anything with a more imminent threat or, something to build off into another movie or a series. It was just kind of A to B. Like we had the villain, we were uncovering the pieces of the puzzle and how are we going to defeat the villain, And you could argue it was just an elongated episode of Jack Ryan. And I guess I kind of wonder the purpose of it. Like, what was the point of the movie, Like, it was entertaining, don't get me wrong. I love the characters portrayed in it. They do a good job. There were certainly some really good action sequences, especially, I guess, on a film budget. But what was the point of it? Where were we going with these characters? What was the story? How are we going to continue the story? And the only thought I could really come up with is the start of the movie, Jack Ryan steps away because of the results of season 4. And I only wonder if this story was to help him buy back into the CIA, buy back into believing in the government, or at least fighting for what he believes the government can be in his country, trying to be the light in the darkness. It's even a theme they talk about a little bit in the movie. And that's really the only thing I can really see from this all is that was the point of instead of doing a whole series, instead of being able to do a whole season where, Jack is out of the game and then it gets back into the game, it was sort of like, this is a segue of how things ended in the previous season to being the catalyst for Jack Ryan to get back into the spy game for real, because I don't want to say he had one foot in, one foot out, but, first 2 seasons, he was, I'm an analyst, right? I'm an analyst. Like, I'm not a field operative. But then you start to see his growth and development of working in the field and enjoying it and being really good at it. And then I think when we get to the final season of 4, you see his hesitancy, especially when he becomes director, because he doesn't have the freedom or the leeway to operate how he needs to, and politics are involved and all this red tape stuff that he doesn't want to deal with. He's focused on the mission and catching the bad guy or saving the world or stopping the threats. There's so many other obstacles to juggle and deal with that it's difficult for him to manage or really want to take on that burden, especially again, when you start realizing the system you're working towards to make better and weed out corruption is inherently corrupt itself. So, it's almost like you picked 5 weeds, but there's 47 other ones growing underneath that are just going to pop up and suffocate the plant that you're trying to build, the tree you're trying to grow. If I had to rank the movie out of 10, I'd give it a 5. It felt like the purpose of the movie was limited. And I think if I'd rated the other seasons, I really enjoyed the other seasons. They were certainly much better than I think the movie itself. And again, maybe because they had more screen time to play around with, they were able to sequentialize things. But at the end of the day, I finished the movie and I'm just wondering that, what was the purpose of this? What are we leading up to? Because it wasn't like we left more things on the table. It wasn't like the bad guy got away. It was, who's the bad guy? What's the problem? What's the threat? And how are we going to stop it? How are we going to end it? And the only thing I can really see out of it is Jack Ryan buying back into returning to the CIA and finishing what he started in the last couple of seasons. Would recommend checking it out. It certainly was entertaining. It wasn't like I was bored throughout the movie. This is just me thinking from a bigger picture of where these characters are going and what the future holds for them. So, and I hope this is maybe just an introductory movie. Like, you know, we're going to come back with another season building up to something, and then maybe that'll start to elaborate on future threats or more serious villains that, you know, create more, and just brings in other villains that create more of a threat or more possibilities or more difficult to defeat, you know? So I'm excited. I think there's still a future here, and they're going to keep building on it. But I certainly hoped for more from the movie and expected more. Because you know, I truly recommend, if you haven't, watch the first 4 seasons. They're fantastic. They're really great television. They feel realistic, they feel grounded, and the performance from the characters within the seasons are awesome. So to see them again in the movie was really enjoyable. I just wish there was more of a plot to it. There was more of a reasoning and a purpose to the story that took place in the movie, instead of just maybe just feeling like making a movie for the heck of it, you know? So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope that kind of give you an insight into the movie. And if you haven't checked it out, you know, go check it out. Enjoy it. Share your thoughts and opinions. Thanks for tuning into this video, guys. Live long and prosper, and I hope I see you in the next one.